whenever we talk about it in English, we don't say Pesach, we say Passover. But is Pesach Passover or is Pesach
something else?
Something else.
The earlier we go, we see a different meaning of the Pesach. They chose the word in Greek for protection. I will protect, not pass over, protect, which is closer to standing. You're not going, the destroyer cannot go in because the Lord is standing on the door. Grafted into this faith, you're being protected by the same God. You're not going to be forsaken. He's going to stand guard because of the blood of the Lamb.
You're listening to Pod for Israel. For more information, go to oneforisrael.org.
Okay, I want to welcome you to another episode of Pod for Israel. I have with us again Dr. Golan Broshi. And we have an interesting one today about Pesach, Passover. Okay, but is Passover Passover? Now, we're going to kind of dig in this. There is really, it's gaining more and more steam every year in a way, but inside of the Israeli academia, there is a debate on what is the meaning of Pesach.
Of the word, yeah.
Okay, now
the root word.
Now, basically, whenever we talk about it in English, we don't say Pesach, we say Passover. But is Pesach Passover or is Pesach
something else?
Something else. Okay, so again, this is a theory. Okay, this is a new theory. This is something we've been hearing, Bar Ilan, a bunch of different universities, and Golan studied into it, and it's a very interesting perspective. So we want to share with you a little bit of a study into some Hebrew language, okay? Some of the
and by the way,
Hebrew
it's not
here.
a coincidence that we're talking about this holiday because it's just around the corner, right?
Yeah, Passover is right around the corner. I really am super excited, Golan, because we have a really amazing video that we're going to be releasing this year. It's about Passover and the Apocalypse.
Wow.
Which is quite a clickbaity title, but it's quite interesting. What's the connections? I think we always think of course, our Passover lamb, Yeshua the Messiah. We see that. That's what we celebrate every year. But did you know that inside of the Passover story, inside of the plagues of the Exodus and the whole Passover redemption, okay, the Exodus redemption is actually prophetic, is actually speaking to the end times events of Yeshua's return.
Yep.
That's a little bit of a mind blower, so I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to, no spoilers here, but that's kind of a little teaser. It's, we're going to be shooting it this next week. I'm super excited. But it's on top of that, we're doing this not just in English for you guys, but we're also going to be releasing it in Hebrew.
Wow.
And something you guys be praying during this time as we come up upon, celebrating Resurrection Sunday and celebrating what our Messiah did on the cross and looking to that day during this Passover season. It's important to also have a heart of intercession because, guys, this is one of the greatest times for us to be able to share the gospel. And so here in Israel, but also around the world with your Jewish friends and neighbors and the people that you know, to be able to share the hope of the gospel, the actual meaning of Passover itself and of this whole holiday, Pesach holiday, it all speaks and just screams out about our Messiah, Yeshua.
Yeah, and the first question we can ask is, why did God choose to crucify, to get the Messiah crucified in this season, in Passover? Why not Yom Kippur or a different holiday?
Right.
Why Passover? Why was it so important that the Messiah would be crucified at Passover? Why this holiday of all the holidays in the Old Testament, in the Tanakh, in the Bible?
I think it all centers around the blood of the Lamb.
The blood of the Lamb, exactly. And that's exactly what John the Baptist, Yochanan HaMatbil, John the Baptist said when he saw Yeshua. He said, that's the Lamb. Now the Lamb could be either the Lamb that was promised to Abram instead of Isaac,
right?
Or of course the lamb of Passover that is still mentioned every Passover Haggadah in every household.
Right. So let's jump into it. Go on. You got some really interesting stuff that we've been talking about today.
Let's go to Exodus. Yeah, let's go to Exodus chapter 12 when everything is going on there. Everything comes down there. And I want you to read a few verses, a couple of verses, please. I want you to read Exodus chapter 12, verse 13 and 23. 23. And then we'll ask a simple question concerning these verses, 13 and 23.
Okay, Exodus chapter 12. Now God's given instruction to the children of Israel here. And here we are in verse 13. Now the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt.
Yeah, and 23.
And verse 23. For the Lord will pass through to strike the Egyptians, and when he sees the blood on the lintel and the two doorposts, the Lord will pass over the door and not allow the destroyer to come into your house to strike you.
Exactly. So we see, there's two figures there in those verses. There's God and the destroyer.
Right.
And there's one root in Hebrew that we get the word Pesach, Passover, one root verb that appears in both verses, which is Pasach, what we translate as Passover,
Right.
Pasach. So the question is, what is the meaning of the root verb, of the verb Pasach in Hebrew?
Right.
Now, interestingly enough, most of the English translations chose the word
Passover.
pass over.
To pass
the,
over.
The Lord saw the blood and he passed over.
Yeah.
Now,
It's like Passover or skip over.
skip over, to skip.
Yeah.
Now here's the okay. So scholars agree that there could be at least two logical translations to this word Pesach or Pasach. Two logical ones, two famous ones, and one of them can be true and the other could be false. And
Right.
So one says, and most Israelis think this is the one to skip, to pass over. God skipped. He skipped over. He passed over to skip. SKIP, right?
Yeah.
Skip.
So it's active movement.
But scholars are saying the earlier we go in the Targumim, the Targums, and the other manuscripts like the Septuagint,
yeah.
the earlier we go, we see a different meaning of the Passover, of the Pasach. We see that it's standing, protecting.
Right.
So we have two meaning, either and the two meanings seem to contradict one each other, right?
One is a kind of active, like jumping from place to place, or like he is passing over. The other one is that he is standing guard.
Yeah. No, one of the foremost commentators of the Bible, one of the chief rabbis, the most known one, Rashi.
Right.
Rashi said clearly it's Passover. Passover means to skip. Pasach is to skip. He said it. There's no questions, no ifs or buts. It's to pass over. The meaning of Pasach is to skip. And again, most of the English
Right.
translations went with it.
But it's interesting as I read Brenton's Septuagint translation. Of course, that's their translation directly from the Septuagint. It says
Word by word, right?
And the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses in which ye are, and I will see the blood, and I will protect you, and there shall not be on you the plague of destruction.
So
when
instead
it's
of
not
passing over,
I'll
they
protect you.
chose the word in Greek for protection. I
Yeah.
will protect, not pass over. Protect, which is closer to standing
standing
still.
guard.
Now it's interesting if you
Right.
read it that way. If you read it now, go back to Exodus 12, verses 13 and 23, and instead of Passover, when you read 13 and 23, instead of Passover, put the word guard or stand.
Okay, so I'll try that. Now the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are, and when I see the blood, I will stand guard over you, and the plague shall not be on you to destroy you
And
when
then
I strike
23,
the land of Egypt.
and then 23.
All right, so 23.
Again, using the word standing or guarding.
For the Lord will pass through to strike the Egyptians, and when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts, the Lord will stand over the door and not allow the destroyer to come into your house to strike you.
You see how much sense it makes? That it's not, it doesn't have to be passing over. It could be standing still and guarding, because God probably gave the destroyer the command to kill all the firstborn in Egypt.
Yeah.
But God himself told Moses to slaughter the lamb and put his blood on the outside of the door, right?
Right.
So God knows that he knows by the blood who obeys him by faith and who didn't.
Right.
So the destroyer doesn't know. The destroyer doesn't care. The destroyer just goes to destroy. Now it says God will stand. Look at the 23.
Right.
It says God will stand on the entrance. What does it say on the 23? God will stand, or pass over, it says, but it could be stand, Pesach. It says on 23, you see?
Yeah.
On the outside of the door, what's the word there? He will stay in English.
And inside the 2 doorposts, the Lord will, in New King James, will pass over the door and not allow the destroyer.
So the door, yes. So he will stand on the door and not allow the destroyer to go in.
Yeah.
If he was passing over, the destroyer could go in, right? But if he's standing at the gate,
right,
and he's saying, not on my shift. You're not going in. I see the blood. You're not going. The destroyer cannot go in because the Lord is standing on the door.
Yeah.
Outside the door.
And just to clarify, guys, this isn't changing a new theology here. This is just kind of like, it's interesting to kind of look into the Hebrew and to see these things here, because either way you leave, if you read it that the Lord is passing with the destroyer, saying, don't go in here, move on, or if he is standing guard, both of them, we see the atoning work of the blood covering the house. And again, the blood of Yeshua covers us from the judgment.
Yeah. Now,
of sin.
What do we do when we want to study, when we want to do a word study?
Right.
We're looking for the same root. The Hebrew words are made by roots, usually a 3-letter roots, like Pesach,
Right.
Passover, Pesach. So we're looking for the same root elsewhere to see if it could help us find the meaning.
Right on.
Okay, so I'll give you a few verses, key verses, with the word Pesach, where the root Pesach appears other places in the Old Testament. I'll give you, let's say, Leviticus 21:18. If you can read in English, and I'll give you a few verses, and we'll see what's the most logical meaning in Hebrew in the context. So Leviticus 21:18.
Okay. For any man who has a defect shall not approach a man blind or lame.
Lame. So the word lame in English is a translation of the word piseach from the root pasach. So now what is lame?
So lame, you're not able to walk.
You're not able to walk, so you're standing still, right?
Right.
You're not jumping around, you're not skipping around, you're standing.
You're not skipping over.
Okay, you're not place anywhere.
Yes, you're not passing anybody.
Now if you can read 2 Samuel,
okay,
another place where this root pasach appears.
2 Samuel verse.
2 Samuel chapter 4. 2 Samuel chapter 4 verse 4, and this is about the son of Jonathan, the grandson of Shaul.
Yeah, we know the story. Jonathan, Saul's son, had a son who was lame in his feet. In other words, there's Pesach.
He was lame in his feet. He couldn't walk. And what happens?
He was 5 years old when the news about Saul and Jonathan came from Jezreel, and his nurse took him up and fled. And it happened as she made haste to run away that he fell and became lame.
He became lame. Again, in Hebrew, the same root for vayipasach. From the root pasach, he became lame. He became piseach. From the root pasach, he couldn't walk.
Right.
So they had to carry him to David, and David had mercy on him. But they had to carry the poor guy because he couldn't walk. He couldn't pass over from places to place, by his own.
Right. They're quite different in their action. One is, you're stationary. If you're Pesach, you're not going anywhere. You're stuck there. Wherever you're put, you're going to stand.
And now this is where it gets interesting. Now look at we're almost through. Look at 1 Kings 18. 1 Kings 18, another place where this root appears, because it doesn't appear a lot of places. 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 21, about Elijah, in Mount Carmel.
Right.
What happens there?
Okay, and Elijah came to all the people and said, "How long will you falter between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal, follow him." But the people answered him not a word.
So the key word is falter. Now, when you read falter, and it says poschim from the root Pesach, Passover. So again, when you hear falter, what do you think in English? What does it mean?
To falter is, I guess, to fail, or basically if you falter, you fall down, right?
You fall down. Now, I guess what Elijah is telling them is you can't
You're
stand,
stumbling between.
but I see it as you can't stand with one leg at the Baal and one leg at God. You have to choose. You can't worship two lords.
Right. But what does he say? This is also Pesach.
So again, he says falter is posech, poschim. How long are you gonna stand holding both gods? You can't hold. It's either the true God or the false God. You can't hold both of them. You can't stand on both of them. That's the point.
But they're not just standing in the middle, but they're like,
it's like one leg here, one leg here.
In the one's place in the middle. They're stuck in the middle. And they're not choosing one.
Yeah, and Elijah is telling them, choose one. Don't stand on both, because it's not possible. You can't worship both because one is false.
But it really is to stand still, not to move, to stand immovable in the middle between.
Now here's where it gets really interesting with the Greek, with the Septuagint, because if you read Isaiah 35, verse 6, and this is the last one we're going to take from the Old Testament, from the Tanakh, Isaiah 35, 6. It says, then
the lame shall leap like a deer, and the tongue of the dumb shall sing.
And this is when the Messiah will come and heal. The Messiah will bring healing to the lame. So after the lame would be healed, what is he going to do?
He's going to jump. He's going to leap.
Then he's going to pass over. Then he's going to leap. But before, when he's Pesach, when he's what's the word in Hebrew when he's lame? Lame.
Then the lame shall leap.
And the word for lame, Isaiah uses the word Pesach from the root Pesach. So the lame cannot leap unless he's being healed. Only after his legs are restored, then he can pass over. Then he can jump. And now here's what's fascinating: that in Acts 14, and that's the last one I'm asking you to read. In Acts 14:8, Paul is healing with the grace of God. He's healing a crippled man, and he's using the same words that Isaiah is using in that chapter. So it's Acts 14, verse 8, if you can read it.
All right. And in Lystra, a certain man without strength in his feet was sitting, a cripple from his mother's womb, who had never walked.
Now stop. Never walked. The same word in Greek. Paul is using the same word in Greek as the Septuagint for Isaiah, for the lame. So he could not walk. He was lame. He couldn't walk. Now read on. What happened? Okay, so Paul, what does Paul do?
This man heard Paul speaking. Paul observed him intently, and seeing that he had faith to be healed, said with a loud voice, "Stand up straight on your feet." And he leaped and walked.
And he leaped is the same word in Greek that used in Isaiah, that he will leap after he's being healed. So it's like Luke. When Luke wrote it, he thought about this verse from Isaiah and used the same words for Pesach, for lame, and for leaping as a contrast to the lame. So you cannot leap unless you're being healed. A lame person cannot jump and pass over and leap.
Right.
And that's why scholars believe that the word Passover is actually standing, guarding,
taking a stand and guarding.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not lame. It's not that God will make himself lame.
No. It just means
he
protected. He stood and he didn't let the destroyer in the house. So he wasn't passing over the house. He was standing and saying, "You're not going in."
Right.
I saw the blood. They obeyed. They took they took the lamb, the perfect lamb, by the way, 1 year old,
Yeah.
perfect lamb, without a bone broken in him, not a bone broken, and they slaughtered him and put the blood on the posts of the door.
Right.
And God saw that. And he chose to rescue, by the way, not only the Jews, not only the Israelites, because we know who went out with the Israelites into the desert.
The mixed multitude.
Exactly. So it could be that among the Egyptians or the nations that live amongst them, there were non-Jews that obeyed this commandment,
Right.
and God saw the blood. You know,
Right.
and
That's
all through the Bible we see
such a beautiful story.
Yeah, all through the Bible we see Gentiles that are believing God. You know, what was the last holiday we just celebrated here in Israel? With those cookies that we love that are in the shape of the
Hamantash.
yeah. Well, how do we call that holiday in English?
Purim.
We call them Purim, like we call it in here. Now, even there in the book of Esther, you know, when Haman is returning home, really angry at Mordechai,
Right.
His wife tells him, his wife Zeresh tells him something really smart, and he should have listened to her. He tells her, if Mordecai is from the seed of the Jews, you're gonna fall, Haman. I'm sorry,
Right.
you're my husband, I respect you, but you're gonna fall. You know, because probably Zeresh, as well, like Rahab,
Right.
and Ruth and other Gentiles knew that there was something special about the Jews and their God, and she tells Haman when he's mad, she tells him, "Don't touch him, don't touch Mordecai. If he's Jewish, you're gonna lose." And
Wow.
and Haman just he gets more upset.
It was
He doesn't
already too
listen
late
to her.
for that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was much more mad. So again, we see that what important is that they obeyed by faith, and
Right.
and the blood of the lamb signal God to protect them.
Either way you see it, you're seeing that God protected his people. That Passover was about the covering and about God stopping that plague for his people. And one of the things that we talk about in this new video out is basically it's what's the purpose in the plague? What was God trying to speak inside of it? Even what's the purpose in the plagues to come and that we look at, you know, in end time events? And as these things will be poured out, is it just God angry coming to smite? Or is God actually coming to bring a harvest? Is he coming to turn the remnant who will have ears to hear in that time?
Yeah, and by
and
the
that's
way-
as you kind of look at this new and afresh, it changes your whole perspective on that.
Yeah, and you know that there's so many similarities between the first Passover, the
Right.
first Pesach in Exodus 12, and the final Passover, the most important Passover 2,000 years ago with Yeshua. And
Right.
I'll give what was the last plague that the Egyptian got? What was the last one? The 10th.
Well, the last one was the death of the
The
firstborn.
death of the firstborn. And what are we saved by? By the death
By the death
of the firstborn.
Yeshua. Yeah.
The firstborn from the dead, he's called, right?
Yeah, and he's
So God-
the first fruits of the
Yeah,
resurrection
so God
as
took out his firstborn for our sake,
well. Right.
right?
Mm.
So, but there's so many similar, and it's not a coincidence that God chose that the Messiah would be crucified on that day. And as we said, the first time John the Baptist saw Yeshua, the first time we hear about it, he knew, he got it
and you
because
know,
he was waiting for it.
I think of this whole thing here, and it reminds me of the verse, "He who keeps Israel never slumbers nor sleeps." You know, and you
He
kind of
stands on
see
guard.
that. You see that picture of God standing guard. And you know, the other thing is, especially back in the day, if a guard was to leave his post, he would be executed. That's what was. There was such a commotion about when the guards were sent to guard Yeshua's grave. And when the stone was rolled away and the angel came and, they ran away, they were scared. They were scared not just about what happened had freaked them out, but they knew that their life was on the line.
So you're telling me God is not going to divorce Israel. He's not going to forsake Israel.
No, he's not running away.
And so here's the good news. If you believe in Israel's Messiah, you're grafted in. You're protected as well.
Amen.
You're grafted in. I don't care. I don't care where you are. Yeah, for what ethnicity you come from. If you're grafted into this faith, you're being protected by the same God. You're not going to be forsaken. He's going to stand guard because of the blood of the Lamb.
It's awesome.
Because your faith, right?
That's awesome.
So again, this is an incredible season that we're coming into. We just finished Purim.
Yeah.
And again, miraculous salvation.
Yeah.
Of one courageous queen that came out of nothing, became the queen of the biggest empire in the world. This Jewish orphan girl named Esther.
Right on.
And remember, what did Mordecai tell her? Esther, if you're not going to go to the king, if you're not going to do something, if you're going to hide your identity, if you're going to deny,
right?
Yeah, there's going to be a deliverance out of somewhere else. Yeah, as if he's saying God is going to bring deliverance out of somebody else. But your name, Esther, you're going to bring shame to your family name forever. How are people going to remember you?
And it really, just thinking through this season, through this time, with all the troubles, with all the things that we've all been dealing with, and the controversy and the things that shake this world, we're not to be shaken.
No,
we're to stand firm. We're to stand.
Why?
Firm.
Because on the lampposts of our heart, there's the blood of the Messiah.
And this is a time like that's beautiful. With the story of Esther, to remember. Do we want to be cowardly? There's actually a lot that's spoken, in the book of Revelation and all through the scripture about the cowards. Esther was not a coward.
She had her doubts.
Bold. She
had her doubts.
All of us are shaken.
Yeah, but she came through.
Yeah, the righteous, they might fall down, but the righteous get back up.
No,
and it takes courage to do such.
Esther and Mordecai, they were Jews in Persia.
Yeah.
And now my father's side of the family came from there.
That's awesome.
So just can you imagine what happened if Haman would have killed all the Jews?
Yeah, we wouldn't be talking with you today.
After more than 2,000 years, the parents of my father came from there.
But it's amazing when we look at these stories, when we look at these great acts that God did. This is beautiful for us to share the gospel. So are you going to be one like Esther, to stand up boldly and to take your part in the story of salvation? Are you going to take your part to share boldly and to bring life to those around you? Or are you going to back into the corner? And I pray that you boldly share.
Like John the Baptist when he saw Yeshua and wouldn't deny. And like the disciples of Yeshua that wouldn't, after he rose and gave them the power, the Holy Spirit, they wouldn't deny him.
Amen.
They told the Sanhedrin, who should we listen? You or God? Right? They wouldn't deny him after. So again, we want to, of course, encourage everybody to remember that we were saved by faith, through grace, through the blood of that Lamb. And God sees the blood and He's standing and protecting. Our faith is protected, right?
Amen.
So again, before we finish, you just want to remind people that what's coming?
Well, we got some exciting series that are coming out. Again, this is going to be in English for you guys. I really pray. I think you're going to be blessed by it, but also in Hebrew. So we need your prayers, guys. We're really building up a One for Israel frontline prayer team with a lot of exciting things that are going to be rolling out to have you guys be able to engage with us in prayer. But right now, pray for Israel, pray for the Jewish people, pray for the Jewish people that are in your neighborhood around you, that their eyes would be open in this season. This is a season of salvation. Many people come to faith during these biblical holidays, because God designed these holidays to point to our Messiah. He designed them all to point to Yeshua. And so we see that every year, but I especially just ask you guys, will you start to commit to prayer for the Jewish people, commit to prayer for Israel, and be a light in your communities? Use the this cool stuff that we're talking about. This is fun conversation starters that can bring, kind of be able to naturally bring up the conversation of faith, and do that. Be bold in this season.
By the way, every day we hear of new Israelis. Most come from religious background that are hearing the news about the Messiah.
Yeah.
Their eyes are being opened.
Yonatan just shared with us this morning, there was 3 more Israelis that we can be praying for that have really been battling their, all 3 of them believe in Yeshua. They're excited about Yeshua. But, it's a lot a lot of them are in that valley of decision. They're counting the cost at this point. Each three of these people are from Orthodox backgrounds, and they know that when they take the public step, they're facing
It's going to cost them
everything. They're going to, many of these Orthodox families, their family, you're dead to them. They literally sit Shiva.
Sit Shiva, yeah, they sit
basically,
for
which
7
is what
days.
they do to mourn a dead person. So I mean, this is we need a lot of prayer for the seekers who are going to come across the gospel in this season. We're going to be doing a big campaign you guys can engage in, but also we need a lot of prayer for the new believers to stand strong and to maybe take that step out and share the hope that they have in Yeshua. And so, I need a lot of prayer for the body here, and we're praying for you guys, praying peace in you guys, and pray you guys have a blessed week. God bless you guys.
Amen.